Thank you for those who are already putting in. There's right 30 chats on the line, so thank you. Welcome to MSEA's Digital Learning, Adapting Your Lesson for Digital Learning, Series number 2. I am delighted to have you this afternoon. Before we get started, I wanted to let you know that MSEA really cares about your professional growth. When we started this, the first thing we did is examine what our members wanted, what you needed to help your professional growth. And we know we are in unprecedented times. Times that have changed the way the education sector is dealing with supporting students and making sure learning continues and learning is sustained. So it is my pleasure to welcome you to this webinar. And we hope that you will find resources that you can use, as well as we want you to realize that you have a wealth of information. Joining me today are 6 other educators who are experts within their field that will share their practices and things that they have done to support their students. So we hope that you will find this seminar informative, as well as we want you to also be part of this community to share ideas and improve our toolkit. So please make sure that you add information to our chat box, and we also will be sending you information how you can post additional resources and strategies in our toolbox that MSEA will be collecting. My name is Geraldine Duval. I'm an organizational specialist at MSEA. My primary role is to support and develop professional development practices and supports for educators such as yourself and ESPs. Another primary function of my role is to monitor and review education policies and reforms. I do this so I can provide resources to support you and your students. This Zoom will be conducted in a webinar style. So if you're unfamiliar with that, your microphone was muted when you entered the webinar, and you do not have the ability to do video. You will be able to see the host, myself, and the panelists. We have enabled the chat box, so as you can see, you already started putting information in our community chat. If you have questions, please use the chat box as we present with you tonight. As mentioned before, this meeting will be recorded. We are recording it solely so we can provide this recording to other members who are unable to attend. So we can be efficient with our time, we have 3 net etiquettes for us to follow. We want you to be an active listener. We also want you to realize that we are all at different points on this journey. There are so many different things occurring at different counties based on the needs of their population and their students. We understand that you also have strategies that have been working for you, and so we want you to contribute to the growth of the group by adding these information to the chat box when it's applicable. And most importantly, we want you to remember we are all in this together. We're navigating through this journey, and we will make it through. If you joined us for the digital series number 1, we were able to do a poll survey using Zoom, and you provided us some feedback. Based on that feedback, we have modified series number 2 to focus on instructional apps and accessibility tools. You will also find that some of your panelists will cover some learning and management systems that they're utilizing and other tools that they're utilizing for video to support their practice. To accomplish our goals for tonight, we will look at accessibility tools and some strategies for creating that positive, engaging virtual learning environment. We will talk about how you sustain that environment, because we know that we are going to be doing this until the end of the year. We'll give you some tips and tricks from your colleagues that you see on the display. They will share some lessons from their remote teaching and what has worked for them. And as we said, although this is a 1.5 hour webinar from this point, we want you to realize that you will also add to our strategy box. So we will ask you to add to our toolbox when that information comes to you via email. To help us accomplish our goals, we will accomplish this itinerary. I will do a quick demonstration of an accessibility tool that you can utilize that will support different kinds of learners. We will do an IPEVO demo, a Foldables demo, a quick overview of 2 apps that can help with engaging, talk about tips to connect with your parents. And the majority of your webinar will be spent with mini webinars from your facilitators by grade span. We ask you to listen intently. Even if you are at the high school level, you will find information shared from the elementary level that you can utilize in your classroom. So all the resources will be applicable to some degree. So please listen carefully as the different grade spans are sharing their ideas. We'll wrap up with tips and trips to help your practice and complete our evening. Sometimes our work feels small and insignificant, but remember those small ripples? They can gain momentum and build that current that is insurmountable. We hope that you will learn a couple tricks to add to make your learning that much more impactful. Now to accessible tools. I don't know if you've had a chance to revisit a tool called Read and Write. Read and Write is a great tool. It's a great tool because it supports all types of learners. If you have a student who's dealing with complex text, this is a tool that they can use to, again, dissect that text and get assistance. If you have a struggling reader, it has a capability of reading back text to you. If you have a student who is an English language learner, there are tools in there to support their formation of language. So I'm going to do a quick demo, and then in the chat box, if you have utilized this tool, maybe you can share ways that it has worked for you. If you've never utilized it, maybe consider what you might be able to put into practice once we showed you the demo. Before we operate, most of the strategies and tools we will share are things that are used across the county. But we want to operate and let you know that you must see if any of the tools we're providing are approved by your county before utilizing them. And please make sure you follow any federal privacy laws.
Read and Write for Google Chrome is an extension that gives Bookshare members more options when reading on a computer or Chromebook. Read and Write is available in the Chrome Web Store. To get the extension, open the Google Chrome browser. Select Apps in the top left corner of the page. Then select the Web Store app. Search for the desired extension, then follow the prompts to install it in your Chrome Extensions toolbar. Once you have installed the extension, go to www.bookshare.org. Log into Bookshare with your username and password. Your My Bookshare page will open. Select View your assigned books, reading lists. Open a reading list and choose a book. Then, select Read Now. The book will open in Bookshare Web Reader. Select the Read and Write icon in your Chrome Extensions toolbar. Highlight the text where you want to start reading. Then select the Play button, or select the Hover Speech tool, and hover your cursor over where you want to start reading.
Ordinary. I know I'm not an ordinary 10-year-old kid.
To adjust the voice settings and rate of speech, select the arrow on the right end of the toolbar, then select Options, and then Speech. Select OK when done.
What you just saw is a video that gave you 2 tools. One is Bookstore, which is an app that is mainly used by teachers who support students with IEPs and special disabilities, but the function within there that is available to all educators is read and write. You will receive the set of directions for installation after the session is completed. So what we want to do is give you a chance to see it more in action. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so as you can see, I have highlighted a text on the tool Read and Write. And what I will do is show you how this tool can support different types of learners, struggling learners, ELL learners, or even students who are gifted who are dealing with complex text. So I've highlighted the text, and what you can do is hit the play button.
If you're not able to remove Read and Write for Google Chrome because the slider to enable or disable the extension is grayed out, this means that Read and Write for Google Chrome has been deployed to your...
So as you can see, it read the text to us. So that's a support for text-to-speech. Another functionality of this tool is if a student's having trouble with a vocabulary word, vocabulary is very essential for students who are learning a new language. And it helps in terms of understanding the whole content. You can highlight that word and you can do two things. You can hit the dictionary and they will provide a dictionary definition. It will also tell you the parts of speech if that's something you're working for in English, a great tool. And also for the English language learners, you can hit the picture dictionary and you will see an image populate. Great tool for all types of learners. Another neat thing is if you have students who are in a language learning program or immersion program, they're learning to navigate both English and another language. This tool can support in that capacity as well. I can highlight this text that we just mentioned. I can toggle here and change the language. I'm choosing Spanish because that's the language that is minorly used in Maryland by most other students. And I'm going to hit
YOUAB28 days left to try our premium features. Learn more. Dictionary. Picture Dictionary. Refinar. Contáctenos.
So as you can see, it captures the language in Spanish, and I can go back and return to my English context to make connection back to our current learning. I've opened up a Google file, so it works on Google as well. So this is a tool that you can use. If you kind of look up on my upper screen, there's a little bar that says Read and Write. So you will see a purple icon that populates right here on your screen when you have it. And that will give you this browser. It has functionality as highlight. So you can go ahead and highlight a text. And that's what you want to focus on. If you want to have students practice dictation to see if their words are sounding good, we can have that and click the microphone capability of that. Please remove all other materials from your workstation to begin. And so again, they can see if they are forming words. So great tool, accessibility tool that you can use with your students. Let me toggle back to our PowerPoint. Okay, so another way you can support is by building routines. We know during traumatic times, routines are very essential for students. It helps give them that comfortable feeling to know that everything's going to be okay. One way to do that is to have consistent schedules within your classroom by notifying them what's going to happen, but you can have your parents do the same thing. So one of the tools that I have is a simple document shared by Common Sense. It shows a daily schedule, and you can do this and modify it for you as a weekly schedule for your students, but also share this as a tool that parents can use. So We know they're not with you all 8 hours, but here's an example of things that you can say, well, they're meeting with you for Google Classroom and a Zoom session at 9:30 and back again at 10:30. But here's some other links that they can use on their free time to make sure that learning is happening and learning is sustained. So this gives them a way of understanding that their day should be balanced with both academics. Go Noodle and Cosmic Yoga are 2 activities that give them physical movement. There are lots of other tools. Notice we've added reading because reading is important at all levels, so offering reading. And there needs to be free time, so understanding that that needs to be a schedule that's respected. So this is a tool that you can use and modify it for you and share with your parents things that they can do to support you in this journey. We all need technology, and when we embrace it, learning becomes more engaging. Because when students are engaged, they are interested, and that's where learning takes place. We know you are using some tools that you probably have forgotten because you've been just navigating that distance learning piece and trying to get all your lessons in. So today we're going to visit some tools that you may have in your practice, but how to look at them in the remote learning setting. So again, in the chat box, I will ask you to consider something that you may be seeing for the first time or you've already utilized, how you can tweak it to make it work for this platform. So to do this, I'm going to use my IPEVO and do a demo. But to get started, I wanted to kind of explain what the benefits are. As you can see from the 3 pictures I have on the screen, this is a great tool for especially math teachers who want to do a demo. As you can see from the screen, this person is using a protractor to measure angles. So again, that's that hands-on. So if you have tactile tools that you can use, manipulatives, this is a great tool. This particular educator is taking notes, maybe showing students how to annotate their notes with highlighters. And so that's a tool that they're using. The music teacher again is displaying their keyboard so they can see real life action of playing. By utilizing this tool, they become more connected to you. So this is a great tool that you can implement into your practice. I'm going to be switching screens. So as we get adjusted, so you will see I have 3 sheets of paper on here. And if you are not familiar with Foldables, this is a great tool that you can use to engage all learners. So we're going to have you do, I'm going to show 2 foldables just so you can have a sense of what they are. But we're going to have you use a foldable because you're going to get lots of great resources from your colleagues. And this might be a good way for you to practice using a tool as well as also taking notes from this point on. So in this particular case, I have 3 sheets of paper, and what I will do is line them up so there's about a 1-inch spacer between each one of them. Then I will take my sheet of paper and fold down like so. Trying to navigate the computer and this, which you will have to see. And I folded it, and what you will see is a trifold with 6 different layers, a white layer, a yellow layer, a pink, where students can take notes in the trifold. We're going to have you do a center fold, which just requires 1 sheet of paper. So if you happen to have a paper next to you, you can utilize this tool. If you want to grab one real quick, we won't see you move because the camera's not in front of you. So go ahead and go move and get the paper. What I've done is taken a regular sheet of paper, and you're going to fold it like a hamburger and fold it center so that you have 3 equal folds. And as you open it up, you will see you have 3 sections in the front and 3 sections in the back because you have 6 dynamic speakers who will be speaking to you. And you can label that speaker number 1, I believe will be from a middle school panelist. And her name is Aaliyah, and so forth. So these are great tools because of the tactile ability, students can see what's going on. They can, again, take notes. So it's a way to engage them, but also because you're putting a camera, they are feeling more connected to you. They're feeling more like they're in the classroom. So again, another tool for you to utilize. I'm going to be switching back to my PowerPoint. So foldables, again, you will see that link. This is a resource that you can use at a later point. Foldables have lots of variation. By using colored paper, again, the color is a great tool because it gives that movement. You can see I have a picture of it being used as a math, mean, median, mode. A little bit biased because I have my math background, but again, here's a reading one where they're looking at about a book and the parts of the book that are important, the title, the setting, main characters. You'll see a lot of different foldables that you can use, example. And what this blog will give you is actually a toolkit of lots of different foldables and how you can actually make them with your students. Another way to engage them with your content and keep the learning exciting. Well, our review is, again, some top assessment tools. There are tons out there, probably about 20 that I can think of off the top of my head. But I decided to focus on 3 of them. One of them, Google Forms, we talked about last week, but a few of your colleagues today will be sharing some of their Google Forms, so you will see that a little bit more. And another tool is Poll Everywhere. It's a great tool that has live surveys. So again, you'll be able to see that. And Kahoot, also another tool. And what's great about Kahoot, which I'll show you in demo, is the capability of inserting photos and videos to give it that more relevant context. So a great assessment tool. It's a poll everywhere. I'm going to be sharing a poll that I created just for simulation. If you want to join with me, you'll be able to see it live. And if you just follow the set of directions that are going to populate. So if you look at your regular phone, there will be a set of codes to a problem. Those were the answers. You will put that in the message box. And in the to box will be this code that's here. You have the capability of using it as a phone, but a lot of your students do not have phone. I know that. You're gonna say, wait, we can't use this. There is a web version as well. So I'm going to show you it as a web and text. You can decide which way you wanna join us today. Here is my poll question from Poll Everywhere. Which county in Maryland has the largest English language learner population? You can either, again, text to this code, these numbers, or use the browser address on top, pollev.com/GeraldineDuv469, and type your question. I already see someone doing it. All right, you guys are on top of it. I think some people will probably choose the wrong answer just to see what's happening. Again, the great way for you to see the tool. And what you can see is as people are signing in, you see the percentages are dramatically changing. And this is a good way also to do percentages with students, because you can show, again, how percentages change based on responses. Again, a live way to do it, you can either, again, clear responses and start over. And the answer is Montgomery County. And believe it or not, about 2/3 of the ELL population come from Montgomery County and Prince George's. So a great fact for you for this evening. So another tool is Kahoot. If you're not familiar with it, I'm going to play a little video demo just to give you a little bit of sense of how it works.
Hello, this is my Kahoot thing over Civil War leaders. Go ahead and join here. So you start it up. Got a nice picture of Abraham Lincoln and Jefferson Davis. First question, who was president of the Confederacy? Abraham Lincoln, Jefferson Davis, Stonewall Jackson, or J.K. Rowling? Jefferson Davis.
You can try the quiz too. I got one wrong, so maybe you might do better than me. I'm not a history buff, but
Who was this man, president of the Union? It's not Billy Mays. It's Abraham Lincoln. Which state seceded first? A little clip.
On December 20th, 1860, South Carolina seceded from the Union.
Must be South Carolina.
as you can see, this question integrated a video concrete for students.
Which battle had the bloodiest day? It was Antietam. And who won the war? Obviously, Union.
The good news is if you didn't get all the questions answered right, you are
Feedback.
still okay to participate in this webinar.
Stuff like this, you can rate it. Thank you.
What's nice again about this tool, I'm going to share another part of my screen. I opened up a Kahoot myself. And after you create it, you would get feedback. I did one, a math, and I had a question on what is pi. Notice I had a picture, again, giving that concrete example to help students. And I noticed that, again, no one got that question answered right. So that may mean I may need to do a little bit more scaffold. And here on this side, it said only one student didn't finish. That may mean I need to go ahead and reach back to that parent and say, is there another support that I can provide? So again, what's nice with Kahoot is, again, it's a great assessment tool. Again, it's real time. There's a game activity with it. Students like to compete against each other. Again, that engaging aspect, but it gives you that real-time feedback so you can know how your students are progressing, what you need to do to re-teach. So a great way to continue what we're doing. So again, technology is all about helping the students. We use them as a tool to utilize to support learners, different types of learners, English language learners, students who are GT, students who are struggling. And we hope you will find some resource to help you with that. So in the next hour, you will be hearing from your colleagues across the state. I'm delighted to have them. They're a great bunch of folks who decided to give their time to support you. And so we are happy to have them on board. So I will be introducing each one of them as I shed, and they will be sharing a few ideas that you can utilize. All the ideas that they share will be available after this webinar, and we will send you a link so you can have additional resources. Many of their slide decks have additional links so that you can go ahead and peruse and take time to really navigate that. We will have middle school, followed by high school, another middle school, speaking from the ESOL lens, and then the 3 elementary following to end. To begin, we have Aaliyah. Want to take the time to introduce Aaliyah. Aaliyah is a 6th grade English language arts teacher, and she's also a coach on sociology, which is another one of those LMS that we heard is really being used across the state. She has facilitated online learning at the university, Hood College in particular, has a master's in instructional technology. Again, she has a blog, so take a look at her blog. Again, we will probably find lots of resources. With 14 years experience in Frederick County, I'd like to get Aaliyah to go ahead and share her screen.
Hello all. Hopefully everybody can see my screen okay. Can you give me a thumbs up if you can see it, the rest of the presenters? Perfect. Okay, great. We're going to be talking about adapting lesson plans, and let me for your learners during this process. I'm going to put a link to this in the chat after I'm done talking, just so that you guys have access to it. And I'm just going to ask you to bookmark it when you get a chance so that you'll have access to these resources. So we've already touched on it a little bit. Just remember those laws and those rules that you have to get permission before using any tools from your county. And also don't share personally identifiable information or data on the internet without permission. So following COPA and FERPA. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to show you a traditional lesson. I teach ELA, but a lot of what I'm going to show you is applicable with any teacher that, any subject area. So if we're looking at a lesson plan here, what I'm looking at here is a lesson where students were starting to write a narrative. So they were filling out some organizers. On Monday, they learned about what a narrative was through discussion and talking about the narratives that we had previously read in class. Then the next day they would do some organizers to think about how they were going to start formulating the ideas of their own stories, talking about plot diagramming and those things. Then as they moved on, they start looking at their organizers together with partners. So they would do some peer editing of their completed organizers to make sure the stories flowed well. Then the following day, they continue that process in class. And my class periods are about 45 minutes long. So, if you're not, in a good place where you have a 90-minute block or a 60-minute block, mine are only 45. So you'll see that my sessions are short. So I keep things short. 20 minutes for station rotation. So we might have 2 rotations a day. And then on Friday, we do a read aloud for 10 minutes, and then they're doing their writings. So if I'm looking at taking that process to a digital learning environment, what you're going to see is you have to slow things down a lot. You have to give your students more time. You can't expect them to get on and just go at the pace that they would in a normal class environment where you're there to give them that encouragement. So just remember to keep that in mind. For our 6th graders, we're looking at about 20 minutes a day per subject area. So in keeping that in mind, what we did was we slowed it down, like I said. So the first thing they did is they answered a discussion question that pulled that prior knowledge from the previous stories. Okay, and that's the only thing they did that day. Then they looked at a video of the rubric on that same day. So they would know how they were going to be scored, what we were looking for. The next day, they did the plot diagram review. So as you can see, what I normally would do in one day has been expanded into 2 days. After that, they would do one organizer and they would turn it in digitally. That gives me an opportunity to see who's not understanding. But at the same time, if a student is home and let's say their responsibilities are to watch their siblings or to help out in a capacity that they wouldn't have at school, you can't expect them to get everything done on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So what I do is I post things on Monday and it's not due until the following Monday. That gives them time if they're, they might do 2 days in one day or however they have to manage that time. When we move into the next organizer, that's another day's work. And then I record my first chapter Friday videos or my read along text that we're doing. So I take and I record that and I post it and the kids know that they can go there. And then I also include another thing, which is a reflection form. And the reflection form is important because it gives me a way to check in with my students and make sure that they're okay emotionally and also that they're keeping up academically, what they're struggling with, what their successes are. So including that piece I feel is important. Another thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that you include some kind of a checklist to make sure that students are able to monitor their progress. So one of the ways that we did that was to just have icons that they drag up into the document as they complete each day. Okay, so that was the first format. And what we found, we polled our students and we asked, is this easy for you to follow? And what we found is that for some students, that document where everything was all, multiple days on pages was really confusing for them. So the way that we worked around that problem was to change the format of the document. So if you have older students, that first format might work, or you're teaching an honors class, or students who are more able to work independently. What we did was we moved it into something like this, where we built in the supports. So directions are very clear. We included icons that would help them understand what they had to do for each activity, and gave an overview of the expectations. Then we have our objectives just like before. And then you would have your days of the week where they could click and it would go directly to that page. The instructions have to be very clear, suggested learning paths for students who need that scaffold. Some kids, you can have activities where they can skip around, but you have to let them know that that's what they're supposed to do. And on here, I would say, do these things in order and make sure you finish by the due date. Then as you go on, you'll see videos and different tutorials. For every activity, we made a video that taught the lesson, that they could rewind and they could pause and they could watch, over and over again. And then at the bottom, they had checklists to track their progress. So every time they finished one of the tasks, they just drag the check mark over. So again, we're including that same feature of adding those checklists. We also include time estimates. What we found was parents were saying, oh, it's taking my student 2 hours to complete your work. And we're like, well, it shouldn't. So we put those icons in so students, it helped them to gauge how much writing they had to do for an activity. It helped them to not waste time because parents now knew how long it should be taking them, and that helped as well. So you want to make sure that you keep those instructions very clear. And then, like I said, there's that opportunity for reflection at the end of the week. So as I go through all of that, you have to keep in mind you're going to have those students who also don't have computer access. So how do we reach those students? Well, we had paper activities. And the paper activities that we created really did align with what the students were doing in class. So for our students who were working digitally, they were walked through with models and things for writing the narrative. And this activity here does the same thing. It gives them models. It helps them to brainstorm their ideas. So you have to try to make sure that what you're giving your students is equitable, so that even if they're not there with the digital resources, and you as the video lecturer or however you're doing it, you want to make sure that you're giving your students who aren't with you something that's going to give them as rigorous, as scaffolded instruction as possible. Once you start thinking about moving into making modifications for digital learning, you want to make sure that if you have a team that you can work with, divide and conquer. That slideshow that I showed, my team was able to break it apart. So the videos aren't all me. It's one of my co-workers made this video, and someone else made this one, and someone else made the scaffolded lesson for our EL students or our students who need further supports, like our students who receive SPED services. And you have to onboard your kids. When we moved to that new format, we made a whole video just explaining how to use that format. So you want to make sure you talk through and explain everything, almost more than you would have to do in class. Don't assume that your kids, just because they all have cell phones, that they're digital natives and know all this stuff. You have to piece it out and explain it step by step. Everything in my instructions, you'll notice it was numbered. So it's first do this, second do this. Make sure that you're changing things to fit the environment that you're working in. When you get this document, you're gonna, I've also put in a few things that can help you, like about how to make playlists and hyperdocs, which are documents where they can be linear in how students follow them to successfully reach the end, or they can be where they choose which ones they want to do. It gives them more choice. And when they have more choice, they're often more engaged. Just remember that they're going to need more time. So in the beginning, think of doubling the normal amount of time that you would give your kids. And don't forget to get the accommodations for your kids who normally you would accommodate in class. If they have human reader or a text-to-speech, you need to find a way for them to be able to use that tool. If they have human reader, you can read the documents for them and record them and post them to those kids in whatever LMS you're using. There's reading level adjusters out there, picture dictionaries, there's so many different tools. And because there's so many different tools, I wanted to make sure that I give you some tools that you can use, that you can access. So if you go to the resources in this document, once you get it, there's a document here called Tech Tools for Engagement that I just want to show you very quickly. And the cool thing about that is it is such a wide resource. It has instructional tools, tons of, by different subject area tools, things that are going to help you find good digital content. If you need pictures for your slideshows and things like that, lots of free resources where there's stock images, no royalties, those kind of things. It's a really good tool. So you can explore that to find something that's going to meet the needs of you. But again, make sure that you're following those expectations of privacy for your students. Your students who, if they're not checking in or they're paper-based, you want to make sure that you're still checking in with them on a regular basis. That means you have to make your phone calls and you have to make sure your kids aren't floundering. So you want to make sure, even if you have your own list of student concerns, refer those kids to guidance and admin. Don't let them just, fall by the wayside. You want to make sure that you're really following up to bring them in and let them know that their success is important to you. And I just wanted to look really quickly at the chat. Okay. And that's pretty much my entire presentation. Basically, what I want you to take away from this is that you have to make sure that you're reaching as many of your learners as you can. You want to strive to reach everybody. Make sure that you are being safe with the information that your students share and what you put out on the internet, and also adjust your lessons to fit the environment, the digital environment that we're working in.
Thank you, Aaliyah. As I told you, you were going to get lots of great resources. And because all our presenters have taken the time to also embed links, you will find more than they're providing in this particular 8-minute that we forced them to kind of narrow it down to. So please take the time to peruse that on your own time as we get started. Before we move to the next one, I want to take the opportunity to introduce our next speaker. With us, we have Carrie. Carrie is a mathematics teacher at Springbrook High School in Montgomery County. She's been teaching for 22 years, a mixture between middle school and high school. And in her role, she's also worked with students in University of Maryland, College Park, by doing her undergrad there and her master's. And she's a national board certified teacher. Again, we, MSEA, have support for teachers going through the national board process. So please, again, that's another resource of professional development that we do to support you as you consider that journey. With great pleasure to introduce Carrie. And like you, she may be navigating the teaching world. She has a 6-year-old daughter that she's also helping learn that digital platform. So thank you, Carrie. I'll let you share your screen.
Okay, sorry, I had to unmute. Okay. So, okay. Okay, sorry, it's the blank. There we go. Okay, I can't see the presenter, so can we see the slide? Normally I can see my students off to the side.
You're good to go.
Okay, sorry. How to manage in our PLC, we created our own Google Classroom where we share materials, so that takes some of the edge off. Once a week, we have a Zoom meeting with our PLC to share these ideas. And I've been getting ideas from colleagues in the county, state, and even friends in different states as they navigate through this. Utilizing Pinterest, Teachers Pay Teachers, and Document Camera, which we saw earlier. For math teachers, that has been the best because the kids can see you actually working out the problems. This is a typical schedule of a typical week at our school. On Mondays, we release our pre-recorded lesson with worksheets and homeworks to the Google Classroom. So if students can't attend Zoom sessions, they at least have, and they can see the process and how it works and help them get through their homework. Tuesdays and Thursdays, our periods 1 through 4 have their 50-minute Zoom classes. And on Wednesday and Friday, periods 5 through 8. And then Sunday, they have a quiz due at midnight. So that's a typical week for us as we've moved to online teaching. The pre-recorded lesson, I started doing this when I taught middle school. I recorded lessons and ran them through YouTube. And more recently, I've used them as I'm teaching. I record, so if kids are absent, they have the video, or if they get home and they're confused and they want to re-watch it, they can. And the link, sorry, forgot to click on that. Sorry, that's why. And so, see if the link will work. Just a split second of this because I don't like hearing my own voice.
All right, typically when we graph trig graphs, we're going to start with the axes numbers because those are the easiest. So we would start with 0, pi over 2, pi, 3/2 pi, 2 pi. And just in case you didn't know, let's readdress that. This is 1, 0, and this is location 0. This is pi over 2, and this is the order period 0, 1. This is pi, which is -1, 0. And this is 3/2 pi, which is 0, -1. The first number represents?
Sorry, let me, trying to cancel that out. It didn't want to close because it was behind the sharing. Okay, are we back?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, thank you.
Your PowerPoint back up though.
All right, perfect. Okay, so if you want to be creative and you're just starting out, something simple you can do is to create a Google form. And in the Google form, we simply loaded the worksheet and then provided a spot for students to upload a file of their work. The beauty of this is all the kids' work is in one location, so you're not going through emails and looking for the kids, their work. It's all in one place, so you can quickly give a yes, they did it, or they did not. They're very big on us tracking in our county if the kids are doing the homework and staying engaged. Okay.
Terry, can you reshare? You might have clicked it, but didn't go through. So just again.
Hold on. To Zoom. Okay. Why is this not moving? There. Sorry, guys. There we go. Back to this. Okay. Okay, so really quickly, if you didn't see, another thing that you can do that I love is Google Form quizzes. And you can okay. All right. You can do multiple choice with the kids. Very simple, easy to build. You can insert images. You can do an extension that allows you to type in these mathematical symbols. the easiest multiple choice. Then we also put in questions where they have to show their work and the kids can upload a file similar to the homework. So that's been something that's been a nice feature. And we give one of those at the end of each week. Go back to the slideshow. Okay. The beauty of that, there's no papers to flip through. You can directly on the form, that's the homework one. Let me try to move to the assessment one, sorry. When the kids respond, you can see their responses and you grade directly on here and assign the points, and it keeps it nice and neat for you. Okay, back to the Google Slides. Okay. Hit it too fast, the screen is sensitive. Higher level. I'm going to go over a Desmos activity. I love Desmos because it's very interactive, and the kids you could do things like drop and drag. They can type in their responses, or my favorite is matching. And Desmos was designed as a graphing calculator and devices, and a lot of people think math, but it can be used for anything, especially if you do the matching activity. Okay, so I'm going to take you to a sample one. And show you a student preview. So in this one, this is what it looks like for the teacher. Sorry, for the kids, it wouldn't look like this. But I did a drop and drag where they would drag the vocabulary word into the different pieces of the picture. Okay, and then this is my favorite, the matching. So I did a couple of drop and drags, and there's a type and enter. But the matching would work for whatever curriculum. If you're a Spanish teacher and you want them to match the English and the Spanish translations of words, you would create 2 cards. So for this picture, they match the equation to the picture of the graph. And if it's a match, it will give them a correct. So it's just a simple matching them up. The teacher can see which ones they match, give them feedback, and tell them what they can work on. I just wanted to share with you a couple different things that we've done to try to get kids engaged, so it's not the straight lecture. They can interact, and I can still see if they understand the content and still have conversations back and forth. I hope that made sense.
Thank you, Carrie. Again, from the 2 facilitators that you heard, what is resonating is that we're all in this together. Aaliyah shared that, again, all her colleagues are working together to make it happen so that the load does not have to land on you. So using these tools and taking different components, and that way you'll have more of a richer product. So using that planning time to figure out how to work more wisely so you're not in this alone. Also the need to kind of tier for your different learners. You heard that from the 2 speakers. How do you support them and make it engaging, but so you can meet them where they're at? So great tools, again, for you to participate with. I'm delighted to introduce our next speaker. Let me share my screen. My share button. So we have with us Andrea. And Andrea Robinson Tejeja is a ESOL teacher in Montgomery County. She's been there for 20 years of teaching. She supports 6th to 8th grade students. One of the things that Andrea does is also supports teachers in getting their national board certification. She's a national board certified teacher in new language and literacy, and also has done adjunct professor work at Hood Colleges. She teaches some graduate courses in education. A lot of wealth of information, and I'm delighted to introduce Andrea to this panel. And let me switch off.
Okay. Hi, everybody. So I'm going to share out with you what I send out to my students. So for you to see the student side of things, I'm in Montgomery County, as Geraldine shared, and I teach ESOL 1 students, many of whom have arrived to U.S. schools within the last few months, one who enrolled March 13th. So I really have to make my slides accessible and keep with a consistent format. You can access this through this bit.ly, and I'll also share out the link for you in the chat when I'm done. And all of the hyperlinks that you see will force a copy. So just to go into present mode, so it's a little bit bigger, if my screen incorporates. In Montgomery County, we are supposed to clearly label assignments that are graded. And because I have a double period, I have assigned 3 graded assignments. However, one of these will carry over to next week. So what I do is I've organized it by day, and this is the same format that they get every week, where they have Monday through Friday with similar concepts each day. And then one of the things that I've tried to really look for with my students is to make sure emotionally that they're okay. So I have them complete this survey. I'm going to pop this down. And this is what it looks like. So I have them do a student check-in. This is in the edit mode. So when you click on that link, you can force your own copy. I used Gimkit, no, not Gimkit, what's that thing, Bitmoji. And I created a little Bitmoji of myself, and just checking in with them about how they sleep, you know, are they eating enough, how they're feeling. You can see that I use the icons because, again, I have beginning level ESOL students, and this is what it would look like for the students. So one of the things that I do with this is just track over time how they're doing as they check in, to see if a student goes from yay to meh. A lot of them are at the meh stage now, but particularly if they say that I need a check-in or I need help, then that just helps me monitor their emotional well-being. Another thing that I've incorporated into my presentation that I give to students are these brain breaks. So I have all these different brain breaks that I put in there. And so like the brain break that I gave today was how to draw a great white shark. That's also something that I use when I host my Zoom meetings. So I found that the kids weren't showing their faces on the camera. So the way that I get them to show their faces is we all watch the little 5-minute drawing video, and then we all hold up our drawing. And that's just a way to get them to engage in a, not an instructional way, but really to sort of connect. And then from there, I go to my lesson. So each day I have the brain breaks built in. In this particular lesson, I had 4 instead of 5. I also, beyond the whole schedule, I have daily breakouts, and each day I build in a screencast. So I've started using Vidged because it lets me track the number of views, which I like. But you know, it'll just be a screencast.
Hello there, people.
And you can see.
I'm just going into present mode.
And what you see me doing here, I'll pause it, is go into present mode so I can turn on the captions on my Google slide. And that way, for my new student, he can also have the support of the captions at the bottom of the screen. I tried to keep my video instructions short, so that's why on here there are links day to day, because they're short little mini lessons, if you will, for how to do the work that day. Another thing that I've done is that I do use Google Forms, as you heard from some of our other presenters. And one of the things that I like to do is I limit it to 1 response, but I do edit after submit. And I set them as quizzes because when you set it as a quiz, you can then give feedback. And so like in here, again, I'm ESOL 1, so the kids are working with vocabulary and writing a sentence. So I've got the link hyperlinks to the story, an example with a visual, and then here I'm asking them to write their own sentence. If they write a sentence that makes absolutely no sense, or maybe they just copied the definition, I can give them some feedback and say, hey, try that again. So that's why I like to use edit after submit. And in my presentations, they will do like a study on Quizlet, or I have some games that they might do, and then they'll do the Google form. So just like you would in class, you know, I like to build in some different practice before they actually have to do something that's graded. The other thing that I try to do sometimes is, like here, the kids were doing story elements, just so you see what this will look like. If you choose to see these, it will force you to make a copy, and you'll make your own copy. And the way you do that is just put the word copy at the end of the form. And again, you know, we're doing story elements, but I wanted to know where's the breakdown with them. So I still put in my visuals, and this one I made multiple choice so that they could get some immediate feedback. So I try to vary the different formats for my forms to allow them to work for me. And then lastly, I find that giving students some choice, like I incorporate Edpuzzles, so down here, and these are set to view, and Edpuzzle has a ton of different things on there. I don't necessarily have to create them, I just have to modify them to meet my needs. But I don't require them, but I find that the kids are wanting to do the Edpuzzles just because they're fun, I guess. So that's kind of the overall thing. The one last thing I wanted to say is, even though we're in distance learning, I feel like we still need to celebrate the moments and their kids. So I'll do something like this, where it's their birthday message, and you can see it will pop in a video. And okay, sorry, I won't make you listen to the chipmunks. But the way that I was able to do this is that from the present mode, from the Google slide, I go down to publish to the web, and you can put that link in. And so then when students click on the link, they automatically see it in present mode. And if you like the fancy fun backgrounds, because who doesn't like a pretty slide, I got these from slidescarnival.com. That's where I go to find my fancy slides when I'm tired of the Google templates. And then the last thing to show you is that I found, because I do Zoom meetings with my kids, that they're just not so adept at using you know, like hyperlinks, or I can't put a hyperlink in the chat, and they just can't seem to copy. So I've made a bit.ly, and then that's what I share with students. So I'm able to put all of my links, and we do things like Quizlet Live on our Zooms, or we'll read a story on Epic, or I'll do a quizzes with them on my Zoom. So those are some of the ways that I'm also able to engage students during our learning. Okay.
Thank you, Andrea. As you can see, connecting with students is important. Finding ways to make sure that they realize that there are some norms to this remote learning, and lots of great tools from Andrea to support them. Again, you'll have access to all these tools, and so you can go ahead and take more time to peruse. I'm going to share my screen and introduce the next speaker. Again, lots of great tools from the elementary panelists. We have Samantha Bado, and she currently teaches kindergarten, but she has taught kindergarten all the way through 2nd grade. Currently works in Prince George's County with 7 years of teaching. Delighted to introduce her and all the work that she's doing with students. And one more special thing Samantha, is that she was a 2019 Washington Post Teacher of the Year finalist. So that's a great thing. So I'll let Samantha share her slide deck.
Thank you. Okay, so if you teach early childhood like I do, you might have been cringing when you saw Carrie's trigonometry. And so I was cringing. And I'm presenting on how to change a math lesson into something that would be easier for early childhood. So one of the challenges we saw with early childhood and elementary at my school is that students need assistance to access these digital learning platforms. I work in PG County and we're using Google Classroom, but the kids have these very complicated usernames and passwords, and they cannot get online without a parent or older sibling to help them. So that was one huge challenge. The younger students have less capacity for longer lessons, for longer tasks and longer assignments. And students' digital capabilities are just less developed in early childhood and elementary. I think someone said because they can use a cell phone doesn't mean that they can use a mouse on a computer or the trackpad on a Chromebook. So these were all challenges we realized in our first week of digital learning at my school. So initially we used a lot of the things that the previous presenters showed, such as the Google Slides, and we had the whole week set up. And we got a lot of feedback right away that the parents thought this was too much, the kids couldn't do it, nobody knew what they were clicking on and dragging, and everything was a mess. So we started to use a new digital learning platform called Nearpod. It's super user-friendly for families, for the children, and for teachers. It allows teachers to embed web material, videos, slides with audio, all kinds of things. And it has all these built-in features like quizzes. You can change slides to have kids draw on them. There's a question and answer game that you get to pick your character. So we found it was really easy for kids to use, and it had a lot of sort of like fun features that the younger kids would enjoy a bit more. So just to take you through a sample lesson that you might teach, one of the objectives for kindergarten math lesson might be that students will be able to define length and height, and that they'll be able to identify what's longer or taller and what's shorter. So I just listed the standards there. And if you think back to your elementary classroom, you would be doing a lot of things in your math block. You're gonna bring kids to the carpet and do a math meeting, and you're gonna count out loud, and you're gonna sing, and you're gonna clap, and then you're gonna introduce the concept, and then you're gonna model something, and they might go back to their table. They might come back to the carpet, right? There's a lot that you do in elementary that doesn't involve sitting at a computer for 30 to 45 minutes at a time. So we were trying to think of ways that we could get Nearpod to sort of do that work for us and kind of bring all the things together to make it as routinized for kids and kind of as much like a class as they could get. So I'm going to take you to a Nearpod. Well, first, this is my Google Classroom. And if you go to classwork, so we're still using Google Classroom, and I've just listed everything in classwork as links. So it's just right here. Oops, and you can see some friends have finished it. Oh my goodness, I have no idea what I clicked on. But it just comes in as a link. You can assign it and just put the link into Nearpod, and it'll take kids straight to Nearpod. So let me just move that down. All right. So here's a sample lesson. And I'm going to at first preview it to show you guys what it would look like from the student end. We'll send it some shine so that it will start to work. Okay, so you've got your title slide. You can put in your objectives. And here there's a video of me explaining what we're going to do on that day. So I'll just play it for a minute.
You guys have done such a good job working on your teen numbers from 11 to 20. Then now we're going to move on to something else.
We'll just stop it because it's like My colleagues joke I'm like Blue's Clues because I'm super animated. But basically, I treat it like I would a class. I say what we're gonna do, then we go do a thing. Then I put in another video of me saying, great job doing whatever you just did. We're gonna go do another thing. So here I've embedded a YouTube video that I would probably use in my regular classroom to talk about length. And it's, you know, hello, people, you know me as the Barry, it's the ruler, and she's talking about length and measurement. So that's a tool I would use in my classroom. And then these are images that I just stole from the textbook that my county uses. So we have access to them digitally, and I just screenshotted them and then sort of talked through them like I would in class. So you can put up a slide and add audio.
When we measure how long something is, it is called length.
And you can kind of just talk through a topic as you would with your students. And then you can add some activities. So this activity is called Draw It. So you can just post a slide or a picture and then convert it to something to be drawn. And you'll notice I put the directions in English and Spanish because I work with a high ESOL population, a high Spanish speaking population. So if there are families that need that translation and there's someone helping the student, they can help. But you can just click on the slide and cross out the shorter objects, circle the longer one. So these are just some engaging things students can do. Another video to explain weight. And in a real lesson, I would put a lot more videos of myself in here, kind of dispersed. But here's one of the games you can do, and there's just asking students which weighs more. And you click on the answers. But that just gives you a preview of some of the activities you can do in Nearpod. So there's, if I go back, just to give you an overview, when you add a slide, you can add your own content, which would be a slide. It links to all these other things. I'm gonna be honest, I haven't used half of them. But there are graphing calculators for the bigger kids. You can insert videos, slideshows. You can link directly to that web content, or you can add an activity. And these are the built-in activities that Nearpod already has. So you kind of have to play around with it a little bit and see what works best for the task you want to provide, you want kids to sort of do. I've noticed in Time to Climb, you can add images to your questions and responses, but on a quiz, you cannot add an image as a response. So that just makes you want to think through what you want to choose for students to do. But there's fill in the blank for reading. I'll put in some sight words or some vocabulary words and have you just literally, students will click which word is missing. We're doing the census and social studies right now, so we did a quick poll of what's your favorite ice cream flavor. So there's a lot of different things you can do in Nearpod. And we really found the best part was really that it's just so accessible for students to be able to just click on that link. It takes them straight to the Nearpod, and all they have to do is type in their name so that it records who they are. Oh, and I should add that Nearpod provide, like Kahoot and like a lot of these other platforms, they provide reports of who's done the program. If you've put an activity like a quiz or Time to Climb, it tells you how many they got right. So we just embed those activities and use them as our grades for the week. And we just put everything, we're posting on Mondays and everything's due the Friday. So, 4 content areas go up on Monday. Do your Nearpod at your leisure when, someone's home to help you or whatever you need. And that's it. So it's a super easy platform. And even for the higher grades, it's kind of like cutesy, but my friend teaches 3rd grade and is complaining that she's putting in so much effort into science and social studies and these subjects she really didn't have to put so much time into before. And I keep just trying to tell her get a Nearpod, just put it in a Nearpod, link a video, give them a quiz, you're done. It'll be great. So, so I hope you guys give Nearpod a look, and especially for those who teach younger children, the parents have been so grateful that it's just an easy platform that kids can self-navigate.
Thank you, Samantha. Lots of great tools that you can use. Again, the tools within there about how to engage the learners, giving them videos embedded in your work. Those practices can be taken to all the grade levels. So we're going to move to the next presenter. And it is my pleasure to introduce Kendra Gatto. She is a teacher from Prince George's County with 30 years of experience. She's a reading specialist that works at Pointer Ridge Elementary School. And in her time, she also mentors teachers in their national board process, works with the national board cohort in Prince George's County. So one of her role is to help struggling readers and advanced readers. So you'll get some great tools of how you can support that. Again, we want you to realize we're all in this together. Utilizing your colleagues and your specialists is a way to do that. So without further ado, Kendra.
Hello. All right, let me share my screen and move our pictures so I can present. Okay, what I'm going to be talking about is modifying our lessons for remote teaching. So before you can even begin doing any of that, you need to know your students. You need to know what their families are going through, what materials they have in place at home, because they can't go to the store and go get the poster board. So you need to take a survey of materials and what their atmosphere is like at home before you can even start to think about modifying the lessons for online, for remote teaching. We have to remember we need to take care of our students' basic needs first before we can move into the educational needs. So before you begin your remote instruction, you need to decide how you're going to present your lessons. Is it going to be more beneficial to your students that they do live or recording the lessons, or a combination? Again, having conversations with your parents is vital, because with my kids that I do for interventions, I have a lot of healthcare providers. I have dads who are going, what is this teaching thing? So you need to make sure that you're communicating with your parents on how you plan on delivering the lessons and when. If you're providing interventions for struggling readers or your advanced readers, you also need to communicate with their teachers so that you're not trying to do a live session at the same time that they should be in their regular classroom. So when you're planning your lessons, you want to make sure that you keep them focused and decide on just one or two objectives. Don't try and do the whole thing that we would do in our classroom. You know, if I'm sitting at my table for a guided reading lesson, yes, I'm going to do the preview, the building the vocabulary and reading the text and doing all of that good stuff that we do during a guided reading lesson. But when we're doing remote teaching, we just don't have that kind of time. So you need to be flexible and find multiple ways to access the text. You need to chunk the lessons. And remember, especially at elementary, they have short attention spans. Our little ones, my kindergartners are falling out of their chairs at home, just like they did in my classroom. So you also want to make sure that you are being creative and flexible with your lessons and collaborate with your team. I plan with all the teams in my school, and somebody on that team knows something else that I didn't know. And I've been taking lots of notes tonight going, oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. So, you know, you want to make sure that you're collaborating with your different grade level teams before you even can go to plan your lesson. So something we also need to keep in mind is that we are providing remote instruction. So we're basically taking our curriculum, what we needed to teach, and then providing that instruction while we're online, while we're on the computer. But that's different from online instruction. Online instruction usually has a more self-paced mode. The kids don't interact with anybody. So our remote instruction is what we're doing here, at least in my county. So I post a weekly video with the lesson that I'm teaching for that particular group. And then I have one live session during the week that I can go through and do some actual hands-on learning and answer any of the questions and giving them the feedback that they need. I've also learned how to use the different tools like Google Forms, Docs, Words, you know, you have to know your format and going from that part. So we have some recording options that you can use. These are the top 3 that I like to use. Screencastify is a 5-minute free version, and you can get that in the Google Chrome store. It's a way where you can share your screen with your students and do a pre-recorded lesson. I've done a couple of read alouds where I just had the book and read the book to the students and posted that right there in my Google Classroom. Zoom, you can use Zoom to record. You just make a meeting with yourself and use that recording feature. And you can do the same thing with Google Meet. You just click on it, click the recording. But the difference between the two, when you're recording with Google Meet, you cannot see yourself as you record. So if you're touching your hair while you're talking or any of that, it all gets recorded. So you want to be careful with that part. Now for live meetings, you need to follow the guidelines for your county. My county is, they've instructed us to use Google Meets over Zoom, but they have given us the option to use either one. Microsoft Teams is not an option for us, so I choose to use Google Meets because it's easier for my little ones to access. All they have to do is click the link and they get in. They don't have to do anything else for them to go there. So once you have all of this in your tool belt, you know what you're going to do, you can just go ahead and use some of those options for implementing your lessons. Now, some of the online resources that I use, I'm not gonna lie, I am a paper princess. There's a reason I'm a reading specialist. I love books, I love pens, I love paper. So I am having to learn how to use all of these computer-based things. So far I have started learning how to use Pear Deck, and it's an interactive way for kids to engage in your PowerPoint lessons. So if there is training online that you can receive, it's free. Google is your friend. If you just type in Pear Deck training, a YouTube video pops up. Capstone Library offers a lot of leveled books that you can use in your teaching of reading lessons. My county has access to a program called Unlimited Fundamentals, and it gives us reading and writing instruction supports. It's with the Writing Fundamentals line of teaching. Story Online, I have fallen in love with. It is great for read alouds. It's provided by the Screen Actors Guild. You go to Storyline Online and the actors are reading the stories aloud to the children, and they're using intonation, inflection, and I've used those for bases in my lessons for asking the kids, well, how did that actor know to read it that way? And so we talk about text features and those types of things. You've already gotten a demonstration on Nearpod, and that's the other one that I am currently trying to learn and teach myself. but you should also check with your county about the other resources that they have available to you. Thank you. Yeah, questions?
Thank you, Kendra. Seeing no question on the chat. Again, lots of resources. Again, links for you to go ahead and try these platforms and see what works best for your students. Last but not least, I'm excited to introduce Giovanna Papa from Washington County. She's a first-year teacher. And it looks like we did great because we only lost one person, and maybe that was a technical difficulty. So you guys listened to me and stayed on. Lots of great tools here for you. Giovanna, again, is a first-year teacher. She really loves reading in her students and using restorative practices. Again, a way to kind of motivate students to do the right thing. And she's been working with her third grade team and adapting lessons to be more technology friendly and encourage students to grow. So I'm excited to introduce Giovanna to the presentation, who will share how to adapt lessons.
All right, hi everyone. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. I did wanna start out with highlighting my top 3 platforms that's most helpful to me and my team and my school. So for this, I do want to start off with like keeping the end in mind. I feel that using the understanding by design structure really helps keep everything more target focused, because we do have to keep in mind that it is an online learning situation, and if you keep that target in mind, you're more likely and your students are more likely to accomplish those goals. So even formatting things in a project way can kind of help students have a cumulative view on what they're learning. So I do encourage like a weekly project if possible, but I also have included some other things in here. So my top 3 platforms are Zoom, Google Classroom, and all the other Google things that go along with that, and Seesaw. So Zoom, I utilize Zoom in multiple ways. I definitely pre-record instructional videos for each day. Like Aaliyah said, you definitely need to utilize your team, because it definitely takes the load off of you and helps you balance that work life and kind of giving feedback back to your students. So my team and I, we pre-record instructional videos, and we give one for math and we give one for reading for each day of the week. And that's where we are guiding the kids through with instructions verbally and modeling and kind of giving some extra scenarios with different types of problems. So I do like to pre-record on Zoom. You can also do Screencastify as well, but I do like the Zoom feature because you can use the whiteboard feature, and you can use your phone or your tablet as a document camera if you don't have the fancy doc cam. And there's also annotating tools where you can write on your screen just with a tool, and it can be erased and applied to a different screen. And then definitely the breakout sessions to work with small groups. My county is still enforcing Zoom, so we haven't had any switch to Google Meets or anything, but that's also an option. But for now, we are using Zoom. So I feel like that's the breakout sessions of Zoom are a great way for kids to get into small groups and partners and kind of still give that classroom vibe of them working. You do pop between each set of partners all the breakout rooms, and they can ask for help, and you can meet with small groups that way. So for Google platforms, Google Classroom is the way I push out all of my work. I'll push out one slideshow per day, but if you like to give all of your assignments for that week all together because of accessibility issues, then you can push that out on Monday, and they can go ahead and go download and things like that. So the Google Docs, I feel that's nice for exercising the writing skills, because you can give feedback and you can highlight things in certain colors to give kind of a push towards certain different feedback, and then all the other platforms. Google Slides I did want to highlight in a later part because Google Slides has the Master Slides feature, which I'll show you in a second, and that will help students kind of use the drag and drop kind of format to answer questions, where your stuff won't get edited by students. Like your text boxes, they can't delete them, they can't move anything around except what you plan for them to move. So I'll go into that later. My favorite is Seesaw. My school has bought the subscription to Seesaw, so you'll have to check with your admin and your county for accessibility to Seesaw, but I feel like that it's the most interactive platform because there's highlighters, pens, and you can insert pictures and screenshots, and the kids can voice record and insert shapes so they can do more accurate math models that way, like rectangles and squares and circles for partitioning things, because I'm 3rd grade, so we do a lot of fractions. And so I feel that that's a really, really great tool. And you can also use the voice recording feature in a lower grade, like pre-K or K, for directions. Instead of typing the directions, you can record yourself giving the directions, and you can also record feedback on each page. If you want more info on Seesaw, I did a separate PD with my school that I presented for. So this is hyperlinked, and it's a complete like dummy version of Seesaw on how to do everything step by step. So that's in there for you. So like typically we think of like a typical math lesson, like math routine, exploration, whole group, and then independent. And you can still adapt all of those sections of the typical lesson through online learning. So you can do a math routine through the Google Slides with a master, like I was talking about. You can have a live Zoom meeting in the mornings, or you can create a Seesaw account. So this is the Master Slides feature. When you go to Google Slides, you can create masters so that everything you create in the master cannot be moved around. And then once you insert it into your slideshow, then you can put in what you want the students to edit. So my students can't move around anything, they can't type anything except for these 2 blue boxes that I put in on top of the master. So that ensures that your slides won't get messed up, because that always panics me. For exploration, you can definitely use Seesaw because that is a more interactive platform. You can do notice and wonders. I did like just a picture, and they can notice and wonder and type and write and draw all over it. Whole group, you can use Zoom. I do live Zooms every day, and then you can also do the instructional piece recorded. This is a model of what I kind of post. I do a Thursday each day. I hyperlink the instructional video, and this is one of my examples. And for independent, you can definitely utilize the Google Slides with the master feature because they can drag and drop their answers and type in there. Or you can create the Seesaw assignments, which I usually do with my team. This is an example where they can really interact with the assignment because they can draw the clock hands, they can draw those X's on the line plots, and they can highlight and color code data. So I really like the Seesaw feature. And something else I really wanted to hint at for a second was you definitely need to keep the presentation simple. I know we love the cute presentations to get kids excited, but I feel that giving a kind of organized way to present information keeps them on track. So all of my slides are color coded. So if they're on a pink slide, they know it's the Monday's assignment. And I use this every single week. So I kind of give you an overview of what my slides look like each day. And then if you're using the push out for the whole week, you can use the jump to feature where you hyperlink and it hops to that color of slides, and they'll know when they're on to the next day based on the color changing. So I try to keep it organized that way. And then also the checklist, like many have stated today, because kids need a way to find what platform assignments are on, what the activities for that day are, and kind of give that self-check. And I also keep my checklist color-coded that way to keep it organized so that parents can reference and that students can reference.
Okay. As I told you, you would get lots of resources from our colleagues across the state. So hopefully, again, they have shared their hyperlinks within the chat room box, so you can get that, but that will also be made available to you. So if you're not able to click on that link while we're on this session, you will have access to all those links. So thank you again, Giovanna, for sharing. So some tools, again, Seesaw is more apt to the younger population, but some of the other tools that Giovanna talked about using, they are still applicable for all levels. So hopefully you can utilize some of these tips and tricks. So we need technology. We need to embrace technology to make learning more engaging. When students are engaged, they are interested, and that's the learning takes place. We saw that with everything that you heard for the members. But we know what we're teaching in traumatic times. So I'd like you to look at your time in a 4-quadrant facet. Again, it's about you as a teacher. Be kind to yourself. Remember to take care of yourself first. Think about when you're flying on a plane and there's an emergency, that mask comes and they say, take care of you first. So again, take time to check, because that will give you a chance to reflect, and reflection gives you time to come up with great ideas to help your students. Utilize your network. You have colleagues, you've heard from your other colleagues that they work together as a team, and that helps to make the road and journey a little easier. Remember, some students are dealing with lots of difficult situations. During the pandemic, some will have losses in their family. So again, trying to balance between academic and connecting with them is going to be very key. Finding ways to give them that real life connection through the remote setting, through, again, video chats, using your voice more, will be a way to connect with them and communicate with them so that they know you care about them beyond academics. Of course, relationship is key and always has been key. Before you can get to content, you have to be able to get that. So having the relationship, but holding students at high expectation will get them through this journey that they're in. So showing that you care for them, but also having ways to balance, use the tools that you have utilized in terms of behavior, like Classroom Dojo, and other tools that you use to engage them. Again, we had a strategy that we utilized in the beginning. It was our check-in strategy. We utilized it also during Digital Learning Series #1, a way to check in with your students. Our ritual was to share a hopeful moment during the day, and some of you guys share some great moments of connecting with students, connecting with parents, and actually connecting with a child that you hadn't made connection for the whole year. So thanks again for sharing that hopeful moment, and hopefully you can find a ritual to do with your students to get that connection going. Here are a few tips and tricks that we shared last time. They're still applicable. Please make sure you follow your county guidelines and your federal regulations and laws. Time to feedback and reflection. You saw that in the different formats. People were using feedback in the Google Forms or in person or breakout rooms, but a way to connect. Please make sure you ensure privacy modes, whatever learning management system you're using, make sure you utilize that. Again, lessons can be made available online or pre-recorded. As you saw, you can post things weekly or daily, whatever meets the needs of your students, but try to set the stage so students know what's going on. Balance between online and offline activities, a good way to keep their learning sustained. Reach out to parents. We gave you a tool, see that you can modify it and connect with your parents, because we're both in the journey, and this is a great opportunity to connect with parents. I know for my case, I'm sitting next to my daughter when she's doing her session. So again, finding ways to connect with parents during this time will help you through this road. Using visuals, lots of great tools that you saw today about the inclusion of visuals. They help all types of learners. Those who are struggling, those who are English language learners, or all students. Images and text and videos makes things more concrete, gives relevancy, so find different ways to do that to create interest by your students. Utilize your colleagues. You're on this trip and this road together. So utilize your colleagues, work efficiently to make this road a little easier. As you saw, we shared some accessibility tools, but sometimes the most basic ones we don't use. As you saw, all the videos I shared with you, I selected closed caption so that the words could be visible to students. That is also another tool to make information more easily be accessible to students. So we, again, on the MSEA website, you'll have access to this link. You'll get access to some of the best practices MSEA has shared. Again, here's a link to some NEA micro-credentials, maybe over the summer, because you might be a little bit overwhelmed with everything that's going on now. You may want to delve into some of the digital learning platforms that they have in place. MSEA and First Book did some toolkits. You may find some resources on trauma on that link. I gave you another link for foldables, a good way to make learning more tactile for learners. We know when we have tactiles and brain breaks, that increases the brain activity. So 3 great websites to use. You heard them referenced by some of the speakers. Teachers Paid by Teachers have lots of great tools that teachers have created. So why recreate them when you can buy it and usually very low cost. National Board has also posted some videos to support candidates that apply to all teachers. And Wide Open School also was did a project with Common Sense, is where I got the schedule for parents. So great resources. Some of the apps we use today within our session, some other ones highlighted. We want you to realize that some apps have different functions. For example, Kahoot is an assessment app, so it's a great assessment tool. Class Dojo is more of a behavior management app. Flippity is more of a random calling, so you can have equitable practices when calling students. So know what the tools are. Seesaw is a great collaboration kind of app. So know what kind of tools you're using and why you're using it so that you can make it very purposeful. We will offer a tips for being successful using distance learning for students, educators, and parents, and you'll have that access to that document along with this webinar. And if you haven't had a chance to check it out, ASCD did a great special report on getting remote learning right. So great resource for you to look at in your spare time. MSEA is delighted that we have partnered with the Louisiana Association of Educators. We have this free webinar that you can take. Again, all you need to hit is a coupon code, Canopy 100, and this is a benefit of being a member. We work with other affiliates to bring programs to you. Last but not least, we had 2 of these webinars pre-scheduled, but based on your feedback, we know you want more. So we are partnering with other affiliates in NEA, and we will have other webinars that will be coming out to support you. So again, you can look at the main Maryland Educators website. If you scroll down, and you will see the micro-credentials that we talked about. And also right here in the calendar, you'll see upcoming events. Like you can see the webinar that was advertised here May 13th. So please check out the professional development link in the Maryland site for more information and how to support your work. Again, we want to preface self-care is important. Almost everything will work again if you unplug it for a few minutes, including yourself. So be kind to yourself, take time to reflect, and take time to connect with your families. You'll be better at teaching and better for your students. So it's okay to do that. Give yourself permission. We learned a tracing hand breathing exercise during the first digital series. If you missed it, don't worry, you'll be able to see that video clip. But I want to offer another tool that you can use, which is a 4-7-8 breathing exercise. So if you will indulge me, I will show it to you, and you can practice if you want. Again, you will empty out your lungs, and so too fast. Breathing through your nose for 4 seconds. Hold your breath for 7. And breathe out with a whoosh sound for 8 seconds. Trying to do that with instructions is hard, but again, you got the gist. You would repeat that in a cycle of 4 times, and believe it or not, that would bring you into calm movement, and that will give you a chance to kind of do that breathing and be there for yourself. Again, breathing, and pat yourself for all the work you've been doing. You have done tremendous work over the past few weeks, and the journey is still there, but keep in mind, it's all for the students, and you are doing a great job. You can contact me at gduval@mseanea.org, and also all the presenters that have shared their link, they have shared their information, so you can also use them as a reference. So at this time, I think we got most of the questions on the Q&A, but we have about 2 minutes or so left to answer questions and make sure that we address some of your needs.
It looks like Candace has her hand up.
Aha, thank you.
Maybe she was just waiting back. Sorry, because I can't find her now.
I know it's hard to find her. Candace,
Okay.
can you type your question? Because it's a long list of participants. Trying to find you through here to give you access to unmute will take a lot longer. Aha, I found you. Okay. Candace? Don't hear her, so.
She put in the chat that she was good.
Okay, great, perfect. All right, so again, there was a question about the webinar. Again, it is free. Once you put the coupon code, you'll be able to enroll in that increasing learners through engaging practices. Someone wanted to see the slide with the resource. Okay, use an appropriate wait time. I don't see any others. So again, we are delighted that you are able to join us in MSEA's Digital Learning Series number 2. Thank you again. Please look out for additional webinars to support your work. And in the chat box, I am adding some links that you may find useful in terms of accessing the MSEA article and micro-credentials and other future webinars. Thank you again for joining us, and be safe.